homeless woman caught stealing for her daughter. Then a stranger paid for her bread. The theft, the fluorescent lights of Green Valley Bakery hummed overhead as Maya Torres stood frozen near the bread aisle, her heart hammering against her ribs. The small loaf tucked inside her jacket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Through the store window, she could see Sophie sitting in their old sedan, her small face pressed against the glass, waiting. 7 years old, and she'd already learned patience no child should have to know. Maya had been a graphic designer once. She'd had an apartment with plants on the windowsill and a coffee maker that played music. That was before the company downsized, before the landlord sold the building, before the eviction notice that came faster than she could find new work. 3 months later, the car was their home. The public library was their living room, and shame had become her constant companion. "Excuse me." The voice was firm but not unkind. Mr. Chen, the bakery owner, stood at the end of the aisle, his weathered face creased with concern more than anger. "I saw you on the camera. Please take the bread out." Maya's hands trembled as she removed the loaf. Her face burned with humiliation. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My daughter, she hasn't eaten since yesterday morning. I have a job interview tomorrow and I just needed—" "I should call the police," Mr. Chen said, though his voice wavered with reluctance. "Please don't." Maya's voice cracked. She'd never stolen anything in her life. "I'll leave. I won't come back. Please just let me go, and how much is it?" A third voice cut through the tension. Maya turned to see a man standing a few feet away holding a basket of groceries. He was tall, with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends and eyes that held something like understanding rather than judgment. He wore a faded canvas jacket and boots that had seen better days. "The bread," he continued, looking at Mr. Chen. "How much?" $4.50, Mr. Chen said slowly. The stranger pulled out his wallet. "I'll take this bread, and add whatever else she needs." He gestured to Maya's empty hands. "Please." Maya stared at him, caught between gratitude and mortification. "I can't." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." His voice was gentle, his gaze steady. "But I'd like to. Please let me do this." Mr. Chen looked between them, then nodded slowly. "Take what you need," he told Maya. With shaking hands, Maya gathered essentials: another loaf, peanut butter, bananas, a gallon of milk. The stranger, who introduced himself as Ethan Rivers, added granola bars and a package of cookies. When they reached the register, he paid without hesitation. Outside, the afternoon sun was starting to dip toward the horizon. Sophie had gotten out of the car and was drawing pictures in the dust on the hood with her finger. "Mama." She ran over, then stopped short when she saw Ethan. "It's okay, baby." Maya knelt down, groceries in her arms. "This is Ethan. He helped us." Ethan crouched down to Sophie's level. "Hi there. What are you drawing?" "A castle," Sophie said quietly. "With towers and a garden." "That sounds beautiful." Ethan smiled, and there was genuine warmth in it, not pity. He straightened and looked at Maya. "There's a coffee shop around the corner. Would you and Sophie like to join me? Just for a bit. No pressure." Every instinct told Maya to refuse, to protect what little dignity she had left. But Sophie's stomach had growled 3 times that morning, and the stranger's eyes held no judgment, only an invitation for simple human connection. "Okay," Maya whispered. "Just for a little while." As they walked toward the coffee shop, Sophie's small hand in hers and Ethan carrying the groceries a respectful distance beside them, Maya felt something shift. It was small, fragile as morning frost, but it was there, the first faint flutter of hope. A place to stay. The first frost came in mid-November, turning their car windows into crystalline prisons. Maya woke before dawn, her breath forming clouds in the frozen air, and knew they couldn't survive the winter like this. Sophie was already coughing, a wet sound that terrified Maya in the darkness. She'd been applying for jobs obsessively, but each rejection felt like another door slamming shut. The temporary shelter was full, the waiting list months long. They had nowhere to go. When her phone buzzed that morning with Ethan's usual good morning text, Maya's hands were shaking too hard from cold to type back. Instead, she called him. "Maya? What's wrong?" His voice was alert, concerned. "Sophie's sick. It's too cold. I don't know what to do." The words tumbled out, her carefully maintained composure cracking. "I'm trying, Ethan. I'm trying so hard, but I don't know how to keep her safe." "Where are you?" She told him. "Stay there. I'm coming." 15 minutes later, his truck pulled up beside their car. He took one look at Sophie's flushed cheeks and Maya's exhausted face and made a decision. Pack your things. You're coming home with me. Ethan, we can't. Yes, you can. His voice was firm but gentle. My grandmother's house has a guest cottage in the back. 2 bedrooms, a kitchenette, completely separate from the main house. It's just sitting empty. Please, Maya, let me help, cried Ward with desperation. Maya looked at Sophie, wrapped in every piece of clothing they owned, still shivering. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. Okay, she whispered. Just until I find work. Just temporary. However long you need, Ethan said. The cottage was small but perfect, cozy, clean, with a space heater that made Sophie sigh with relief. There were curtains on the windows, a real bed with clean sheets, a bathroom with hot water. Maya stood in the middle of the living room and felt tears stream down her face. Ethan, who'd been carrying in their meager belongings, set down the bags and hesitated. Maya, I forgot, she said through her tears. I forgot what it felt like to be warm, to be safe, to have walls around us. He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. Maya stiffened for just a moment, then collapsed against his chest, sobbing months of fear and exhaustion into his shoulder. He held her tightly, one hand stroking her hair, murmuring soft reassurances. You're safe now. Both of you. I've got you. When Maya finally pulled back, embarrassed, Ethan cupped her face gently, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. His touch was tender, careful, and Maya felt something flutter deep in her chest. Thank you, she whispered. His eyes searched hers. You don't have to thank me, Mama. Sophie appeared from the bedroom where she'd been exploring. There's a bed with a princess canopy. The moment broke and Ethan stepped back, smiling. My grandmother used to babysit the neighbors' kids. I think she kept it hoping for great-grandchildren someday. Over the next few weeks, a routine developed. Maya would spend her days in the cottage, updating her portfolio on the laptop Ethan had loaned her, applying for jobs, and taking care of Sophie. Evenings, Ethan would knock on their door with dinner, sometimes takeout, sometimes meals he'd cooked himself with varying degrees of success. I'm not much of a chef, he admitted one night, looking at the slightly burned stir-fry. It's perfect, Maya said and meant it. Sophie adored him. She'd run to greet him each evening, chattering about her day, showing him her drawings. Ethan listened with genuine interest, asking questions, encouraging her creativity. He helped her with the homework packets Maya had gotten from the local school, and read her bedtime stories in different silly voices that made her giggle. One evening, after Sophie was asleep, Maya and Ethan sat on the cottage's small porch, sharing a bottle of wine he'd brought over. I had 3 interviews this week, Maya said, staring out at the dark garden. One went really well. They said they'd call by Friday. That's great, Maya, is it? She turned to look at him. Because part of me is terrified they'll say yes. That I'll get a job and have to leave here. Leave you? The confession hung in the air between them. Ethan set down his wine glass and shifted closer. Would that be so bad? Leaving me? Yes, Maya whispered. It would. Ethan reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek. I don't want you to leave either. We shouldn't, Maya said, even as she leaned into his touch. This is complicated. I'm living in your cottage. You've helped us so much. The power dynamic. I don't care about power dynamics, Ethan said softly. I care about you. I've cared about you since that day in the bakery when you were terrified but still standing tall, still protecting your daughter. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Maya. I don't feel strong. You are. His thumb traced her jawline. And for what it's worth, you've helped me too. This house was full of ghosts and grief. You and Sophie brought life back into it. Brought me back to life. Maya's heart was racing. Ethan, tell me to stop, he murmured, leaning closer. Tell me this isn't what you want, and I'll go back to the main house right now. We'll pretend this conversation never happened. Instead of answering, Maya closed the distance between them, pressing her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, then deepened as Ethan's arms came around her, pulling her close. Maya's hands fisted in his shirt, months of loneliness and longing pouring into that single point of connection. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to. Because this, he gestured between them. This is real. Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. For the first time in a year, she felt like she was home. Building a life, Maya got the job. The call came on a Friday afternoon, and she stood in the cottage's small kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, listening to the hiring manager explain her new position as a remote graphic designer for a marketing firm. Good pay, flexible hours, benefits after 90 days. Everything she'd been desperate for. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. "I accept. Thank you so much." When she hung up, Sophie was watching her with wide eyes. "Did you get it, Mama?" "I got it, baby." Maya pulled her daughter into a tight hug. "Things are going to get better now." But as she held Sophie, Maya's mind was racing. With steady income, she could start saving for an apartment. She could give Sophie stability, independence, the life they'd lost. Everything she'd been fighting for was finally within reach. So why did the thought of leaving make her chest ache? That evening, she told Ethan over dinner in the main house, a celebration he'd insisted on, complete with Sophie's favorite spaghetti and a chocolate cake from the bakery where they'd first met. "This is amazing, Maya." Ethan's smile was genuine, but there was something careful in his eyes. "I'm so proud of you. Thank you for everything, for giving us a place to stay, for believing in me." Maya paused, choosing her words carefully with Sophie coloring at the other end of the table. "I can start paying rent now, real rent, and in a few months I should have enough saved for a deposit on our own place." Something flickered across Ethan's face. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment, but he masked it quickly. "Of course, whatever you need." Later, after Sophie was in bed, Ethan knocked softly on the cottage door. Maya let him in, and they stood in the small living room, suddenly awkward with each other in a way they hadn't been in weeks. "Are we okay?" Maya asked finally. "Are we?" Ethan countered. "Because it feels like you're already planning your exit." "That's not fair." Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "I need to be able to stand on my own feet, Ethan. I can't be dependent on you." "Is that what you think this is? Dependence?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "Maya, I'm not your landlord or your benefactor. I'm the man who's falling in love with you." The words hung in the air, raw and honest. Maya's breath caught. "You can't say things like that," she whispered. "Why not? It's true." Ethan stepped closer. "I love you. I love Sophie. I love the way you hum while you work, and the way you braid Sophie's hair every morning, and the way you've turned this empty house into a home. I love your strength and your stubbornness, and the fact that you never give up even when everything's against you." Tears blurred Maya's vision. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of losing this, of losing you." Her voice broke. "Everyone I've ever depended on has left, Ethan. My parents kicked me out when I got pregnant at 19. Sophie's father disappeared before she was born. The company I worked for, the landlord I trusted, everyone leaves. And when they do, I'm the one left picking up the pieces." Ethan closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. "I'm not leaving. I'm right here, choosing you every single day. But Maya, you have to choose me too. You have to take the risk. What if I can't give you what you need? What if I'm too broken, too damaged?" "Stop." He kissed her softly, silencing her fears. "You're not broken. You're a survivor. And I don't need you to be anything other than exactly who you are." Maya kissed him back, deeper this time, pouring everything she couldn't say into the connection between them. Ethan's hand slid to her waist, pulling her against him, and Maya felt the last of her resistance crumble. "Stay with me tonight," she whispered against his lips. "Please." They moved to her bedroom, closing the door quietly so as not to wake Sophie. In the darkness, they undressed each other slowly, reverently, learning the landscape of scars and stories written on each other's skin. Ethan traced the stretch, marks on Maya's hips, the evidence of the daughter she'd carried and raised alone. "Beautiful," he murmured, kissing each silvery line. Maya ran her fingers over the scar on Ethan's shoulder from a motorcycle accident in Vietnam, the reminder of his own recklessness and survival. "You're beautiful too," she whispered. When they came together, it was tender and intense, a conversation without words. Ethan moved above her with careful attention, watching her face, learning what made her gasp and arch beneath him. Maya wrapped herself around him, anchoring herself to this moment, this man, this fragile hope that maybe love didn't always end in abandonment. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Ethan's fingers drawing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "I meant what I said," he murmured into the darkness. "I love you, Maya Torres." "I love you too," she whispered back, the words both terrifying and liberating. "I'm still scared." "That's okay. We'll figure it out together." The weeks that followed fell into a comfortable rhythm. Maya started her new job, working from the cottage while Sophie attended the local elementary school that Ethan had helped them enroll her in. She was good at her work, better than good, and her new employer praised her designs, giving her increasingly complex projects. Sophie blossomed. She made friends at school, joined the art club, came home chattering about her day. The haunted, hungry look had faded from her eyes, replaced by the bright curiosity of a child who finally felt safe, and Maya and Ethan grew closer, their relationship deepening from those first tentative moments into something solid and real. They shared meals and stories, laughter and tears. Ethan taught Sophie to ride the bicycle he'd found in his grandmother's garage. Maya helped him sort through decades of family photographs, creating a memorial album for the grandmother who'd raised him. They became a family, though none of them spoke the word aloud, afraid of jinxing the fragile magic they'd created. 1. Saturday morning, Maya woke to find Ethan already in the cottage's kitchen, making pancakes with Sophie. "We're making breakfast for you, Mama," Sophie announced, flour dusting her nose. "Ethan says you work too hard and need to rest." Maya leaned against the doorframe, watching them together, Ethan patiently showing Sophie how to flip the pancakes, both of them laughing when one landed half on the floor. Her heart felt too full for her chest. This was home. Not the cottage, not the walls and roof, but this. These people. This love. After breakfast, while Sophie played in the garden, Ethan pulled Maya aside. "I've been thinking," he said, taking her hands in his. "You've been saving for your own apartment, and that's great. You should have that security, but I want you to consider something else." "What?" "What if we combined our skills? You're an incredible designer. I'm a photographer. We could start our own creative studio, photography, graphic design, branding packages for small businesses. We could work together, be partners in every sense of the word." Maya's mind raced. "Ethan, that's a huge risk. Starting a business, I know, but I believe in us, in what we could build together." His eyes were bright with possibility. "And this way, you're not dependent on me. We'd be equals, partners, building something that belongs to both of us." Maya looked out at Sophie, who was chasing butterflies through the garden, carefree and happy. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, desperate, afraid, stealing bread to feed her daughter. And she thought about the woman she was now, employed, housed, loved. "Okay," she said, turning back to Ethan with a smile. "Let's do it. Let's build something together." He kissed her then, deep and sweet, and Maya knew she'd finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Not rescue, but partnership. Not dependence, but choice. Choosing love. The job offer arrived in Maya's inbox on a cold January morning, 6 months after she'd started working remotely. It was from a prestigious design firm in Seattle, a senior designer position with a salary that made her breath catch. Relocation assistance included, the opportunity of a lifetime. Maya stared at the email for a long time, her coffee growing cold beside her laptop. Seattle was 3 states away. It meant leaving Ethan, leaving the cottage, leaving the life they'd built together. But it also meant true financial security, advancement, the kind of career she'd once dreamed of. She could give Sophie private school, college savings, everything a mother was supposed to provide. She didn't tell Ethan about the offer immediately. Instead, she carried it inside her like a secret weight. turning it over in her mind during the day, lying awake beside him at night. Their creative studio was doing well, better than either of them had expected. They'd landed 3 major clients in the past month, and Maya's designs paired with Ethan's photography had created a distinctive brand that was getting noticed. But it was still new, still fragile, nothing compared to the stability of the Seattle offer. 2 days later, Sophie came home from school with a drawing. It showed 3 stick figures, a tall one with dark hair, a medium one with long hair, and a small one with pigtails, standing in front of a house with flowers. "That's us," Sophie explained, pointing. "That's Ethan and you and me. And that's our house." "Our house?" Maya asked carefully. "Yeah, the cottage and the big house in the garden. It's all ours." Sophie looked up at her with absolute certainty. "We live here now, Mama. This is home." That night, after Sophie was asleep, Maya finally told Ethan about the offer. They sat in the main house's living room, a fire crackling in the fireplace, and she watched his face carefully as she explained. "Seattle," he said quietly when she finished. That's amazing, Maya. That's the kind of opportunity most designers never get." "I know. Are you going to take it?" Maya looked at her hands. "I don't know. Part of me thinks I should. For Sophie, for our future, for financial security. And the other part? The other part doesn't want to leave you." She met his eyes. "The other part has built a life here, a business here, a family here. The other part is happy." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "I won't tell you what to do, Maya. This has to be your choice." "That's not helpful," she said, frustration bleeding into her voice. "Tell me what you want. I want you to stay. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to watch Sophie grow up. I want to build our studio into something amazing. I want a life with you." His voice was steady, but his eyes were vulnerable. "But I also want you to choose that freely, not because you felt obligated or guilty." "And if I go?" Pain flashed across his face. "Then I'll miss you every day for the rest of my life. But I'll understand." Maya stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Outside, moonlight illuminated the garden where Sophie played every afternoon, the cottage where she'd learned to feel safe again, the life they'd carefully constructed from broken pieces. "I spent so long running," she said softly. "After Sophie's father left, after I lost my apartment, I kept thinking that if I could just get to the next place, the next job, the next opportunity, then I'd finally be safe. Finally be okay." She turned to face Ethan. "But safety isn't a place or a salary. It's this. It's you and Sophie in the studio and knowing that even on the hard days I'm not alone. Maya, I'm not finished." She crossed back to him, taking his hands. "For the first time in my life, I'm not running. I'm choosing. And I choose this. I choose us. What about Seattle? The opportunity. There will be other opportunities. But there's only one you. Only one life we're building together." She smiled, feeling the rightness of the decision settle into her bones. "Besides, our studio's taking off. Why would I leave when we're just getting started?" Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "Are you sure? I don't want you to have regrets." "I'm sure." Maya pulled back just enough to kiss him. "I've never been more sure of anything." The next morning, Maya declined the Seattle offer and called a meeting with Ethan about the studio. They sat at the cottage's small table, laptops open, planning their future. "If we're really doing this, we should make it official," Ethan said. "Equal partnership. Both our names on everything. I don't want you to ever feel like this is charity or like you're dependent on me." "Agreed." Maya pulled up a document. "I've been thinking about expansion. We could hire an intern, maybe rent a small office space downtown. Or," Ethan said slowly, "we could convert my grandmother's garage into a studio. It's big enough and it would keep our overhead low while we grow." They talked for hours, planning and dreaming, their ideas building on each other until they had a blueprint for something real and sustainable. When Sophie came home from school, she found them surrounded by papers and sketches, grinning like children. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Building an empire," Maya said dramatically, making Sophie giggle. "Can I help?" "Always," Ethan said, pulling her onto his lap. "Every empire needs a good art director." That evening, as they worked together to make dinner, Sophie setting the table, Maya stirring pasta, Ethan chopping vegetables, Maya felt a profound sense of peace. This was what she'd been searching for all along. Not rescue or charity, but partnership. Not someone to save her, but someone to build with. After dinner, while Sophie practiced her reading on the couch, Ethan pulled Maya out onto the porch. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box, and Maya's heart began to race. "Ethan, it's not what you think. Not yet, anyway." He opened the box to reveal a silver key on a delicate chain. "This is the key to the main house. I want you and Sophie to move in. Not as guests, not as tenants, but as family. Make it yours." "Make it ours." Tears filled Maya's eyes. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He echoed her words from the night before. "This house was empty before you came into my life. You and Sophie filled it with light and laughter and love. Please stay. Not in the cottage, but here. With me." Maya took the key, the metal warm from his hand. Yes, we'll stay." Ethan slipped the chain around her neck, and Maya touched the key, feeling its weight against her heart. It was more than access to a building. It was trust, commitment, the promise of a future built together. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." Ethan kissed her softly. "Thank you for choosing me." "For choosing us." Inside, Sophie called out, "Mama! Ethan, come see." I finished the whole chapter. They went back inside together, and Maya realized that this was the happy ending she'd never dared to dream of. Not a fairy tale rescue, but something better. A partnership forged in hardship, strengthened by choice, and built on the foundation of genuine love and respect. As they settled on the couch with Sophie between them, reading her proud accomplishment out loud, Maya touched the key at her throat and smiled. She was finally home. 3 months later, on a warm April morning, Ethan proposed properly, with a ring and a question asked while they were covered in paint from renovating the garage studio, with Sophie as an enthusiastic witness. Maya said yes through tears of joy. Their wedding was small and intimate, held in the garden where Sophie had once chased butterflies, where Maya had first dared to hope for more. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising partnership and patience, love and laughter, choosing each other every single day. And as they danced together at the reception, Sophie twirling between them in her flower girl dress, Maya knew that sometimes the best love stories weren't about being saved. They were about two broken people choosing to heal together, building something beautiful from the scattered pieces of their past. The bread that stranger had paid for so many months ago had been more than sustenance. It had been the beginning of everything, a small act of kindness that opened the door to love, family, and the kind of home that couldn't be shaken by circumstance. Maya Torres, once desperate and afraid, was now a successful business owner, a beloved partner, and still, always, a fierce and loving mother. And she had chosen it all, every beautiful, imperfect piece.